John Locke once said that people without government live in a state of nature where chaos reigns and that the only thing that people care about is self-interest. As a result, people give up certain liberties and freedoms towards making a government that protects their rights and protects them in return. Now, this concept has led to the creation of many different ideologies such as communism, capitalism, socialism, and fascism. And these different ideologies have all affected European history greatly. But how are they viewed today? How are they viewed today by, say, your average typical high schooler, and what are their opinions on these different ideologies and the doctrines that support them? Well, let's find out. Now, let's start off with some questions about communism. Do you believe that the upper class should not be able to abuse and exploit the working class?
Yeah, I don't believe they should be able to. We're all created equal. I believe everyone has their own rights and stuff, and I don't believe that people who are higher in society should get to control what those who are lower in society should be able to do.
Final question, what are the thoughts you have on communism if you had to sum it up in a couple sentences?
Communism sucks. I don't think one man should get to control an entire place. I don't think that he should get to dictate what happens in an entire country.
Moving on to some thoughts about socialism. What do you think about equal distribution of wealth, benefits, and property through government?
I don't think anyone should be homeless, and I feel like we should have more opportunities to have equal distribution. But I also think that the people that work harder should be able to do it. And those people now don't even have that much money. And I think the people that work hard deserve the money versus the people that don't do anything.
On to fascism. Moving on, do you think capitalism should only be allowed when it benefits the nation?
Yes.
Should a single person have total power in government?
No.
Does society function better when the nation is put ahead of the individual?
Society technically does, but there are a lot of cons to that you have to consider.
Alright, lastly, what are your general opinions about fascism?
It's pretty not okay.
Back to communism. That the upper class should not be able to abuse and exploit the working class?
I feel like they shouldn't be able to, but are they going to? Of course, all the time.
What are your opinions on communism?
I mean, I hate it, honestly, because, I'm American, we hate commies.
Some general thoughts on capitalism.
Oh, so yeah, I think we should have a free market economy.
Alright, should businesses be able to use their workers and resources any way they like, or should there be some restrictions, regulations on them?
Should who be able to use their resources?
Businesses.
Businesses, no. There should be restrictions and regulations on how to use them.
Okay. Now, when looking at the various answers from the people that we asked, there were a lot of different opinions regarding all of these different ideologies. However, one commonality that could be found was the fact that whether we were talking about communism, capitalism, socialism, or fascism, there were certain aspects that people liked about all of these different ideologies. For example, with communism, people thought that the upper class shouldn't be able to take advantage of the working class, right? That was something that was pretty common amongst the people that we asked. However, when it came to socialism, there was a split when it came to whether or not the government should be able to control the economy or not. However, oftentimes when we ask them, what are your general opinions about communism, socialism, or fascism, their knee-jerk reaction was to denounce this and say that, well, this is not the ideal form of government, even though they had agreed to many of the core principles of these different philosophies. This shows that there is a general lack of understanding when it comes to talking about these different ideologies, because people choose instead to associate things without actually looking at them for what they truly are. However, why do these generalizations occur? Why do we tend to associate things with certain aspects without actually looking at the doctrines behind them? Well, part of it is human nature, because as people, we tend to associate these different philosophical and ideological movements with certain people. For example, when it comes to communism, we tend to think Joseph Stalin, who was a ruthless dictator who didn't even follow through on all the core aspects of communism. But yet, we still choose to associate communism with him because that's just how our minds work. Also, when it comes to socialism, since it's a pretty far left movement, just like communism, we tend to lump it in the same category, which creates a negative view of it. The same goes for fascism. We tend to think Hitler, and since he was such a horrible person in humanity, that gives a negative view of fascism. Now, when it comes to capitalism, since America is such a big supporter of it, we're going to be under the assumption that it's the best way of doing things and that it's the best mode of operation for people. However, because of this simplification and overgeneralization of these different ideologies, this creates a skewed view on the doctrines and philosophies behind these different styles of thinking. When looking at all of these different ideologies, it's important to recognize that they all have had a very profound impact on the development of European history and on the culture of different European nations. However, because of the overgeneralization and oversimplification of these different ideologies, people tend to have a lot of misconceptions regarding them. It's important to take a step back and recognize each of these different ideologies' specific doctrines and individualized traits that make them truly unique, and look at their beneficial aspects and not only focus on their harmful effects. Overall, because of these oversimplifications and overgeneralizations, these ideologies are often passed by and simply associated with certain people or certain movements instead of looking at them for what they truly are and how they truly are meant to function within a community.